Hello, super friends. Before we get to today's geek history lesson, Ashley and I are going to tell you about, we've said it many times on the podcast, our comic book, Jupiter Jet. Issue number 1 is going to hit stores on December 6th. And we're telling you so much about it on every single episode because, one, we're so proud of it. We put a lot of work into Jupiter Jet. But if you want Jupiter Jet to be in your comic stores on December 6th, you have to pre-order. It's the only way that you can guarantee it. And the easiest way you do that is by how, Ashley, former comic book shop employee?
Well, the easiest way to do that is to go into your local comic book shop. I guarantee you there's someone there you can make friends with who is working there. You'll walk up to the nice person behind the counter and you just simply tell them that you want Jupiter Jet. And you tell them that you want all 5 of them. And then they'll magically show up the first Wednesday of every month for you for the next 5 months. It's really that easy.
It is that easy. And please go pre-order issue 1. We're really proud of the story because we came up with it actually. What was the story of Jupiter Jet? How did we come up with it?
Jason and I were having lunch and we were talking about comic ideas. And I said, I have an idea for a comic, but it's only a name and it's Jupiter Jet. And that immediately set the cogs whirling. And most of the ideas from that first meeting made it into this storyline. Including
the big series twist that comes in issue 5. But now, again, if you don't know, it's about a 16-year-old girl with a jetpack. It is the Rocketeer meets Kim Possible. And to be honest with you, it's one of the best things we've ever worked on. I'm so proud of it. Our art by Ben Matsuya is fantastic. Our colors by Mara Jane Carpenter are amazing. And our letters and our logo by Taylor Esposito are magnificent. We're super proud of it, and that's the reason why we keep mentioning it, because word of mouth is how independent comic books get out there, because they don't have geek history lessons on many independent characters. So Jupiter Jet issue 1 hits comic stores December 6th, and all of our Mind University students, if you like supporting us and all our stories and all the things that do, if you love our pitches that we give on this episodes, all these episodes, you know, we were always like, hey, the Teen Titans should be this and Fantastic Four should be this, right?
This is a way to see that come to life, except we own those characters.
Except these are original characters from our mind, and we need your support. Jupiter Jet issue 1 hits stores December 6th. We think you'll love it. We think you'll fly high to the sky with it. And now to the episode. It's time to form a team. A group of metahumans are the only ones to be able to defeat the threats of the DC multiverse, and they will call themselves a league. A Justice League. Learn their origins and their trials in this justified geek history lesson. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Jason Justice Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson. Welcome to your Mind University, where you have stumbled onto the podcast where we take one character, construct, or wildly important organization of superheroes in popular culture and teach you everything you need to know about them in about an hour. But before I say anything more, I want to put the brakes on because today is an extra special Geek History Lesson.
Why is it extra special?
Well, Jason, there's this massive movie coming out that you and I have been waiting for since we were tiny little baby human beings called the Justice League. And we just didn't think we could only talk about it for one episode.
Oh, you gave away the spoiler.
Oh,
no. I was gonna give it all away at the end.
But I'm sorry.
Ashley puts the lead out front, the surprise twist. If Ashley was editing an M. Night Shyamalan movie, she would tell you there was a ghost right at the beginning scene. Oh.
Yeah, but you might like it more that way. You never know.
Sure. You know what? I like Split that way more. So you are true. Yes, Justice League is so fat with members that this has to be a 2-part episode. I do not want to spoil. We have a very special guest for our part 2. We're going to save till the end. So we won't tell you.
I was so close to just revealing it right now and ruining everything.
Please don't. Because you won't hear him in this episode, so you don't want to talk about him. But he is a super amazing comic book writer, and he has written Justice League.
What?
And it was such a pleasure to talk to him. But let's move on to this lesson. Yes, that's right. If you are listening to this lesson very near the time it comes out, we don't know if you're listening to it in the far future. Hello, future people.
Hello.
The movie, Justice League, the movie, is coming out this week. What a golden age of nerds we live in.
I was like, can we just all take a minute to appreciate that we're getting a Justice League movie?
We just saw Surtur on screen and Thor a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now we're getting a Justice League movie. We are truly in the bizarro timeline.
I love it. 10 out of 10.
Now, fun fact, Ashley, this lesson on the Justice League was suggested by none of our listeners. Which
really?
Really surprised me. Not a single listener suggested the Justice League. And we've been holding on to this big mamma jamma for quite a while.
That's funny, too, because I know we have a number of requests for characters like Aquaman, so I bet people just spread their love out to their respective members. That they're most
it might have
in.
been a thing. Maybe our students were, they'll get to Justice League. I don't need to suggest it.
You really?
But, nobody gets a shout out.
Well, there you go.
This lesson was suggested by Jason Inman.
There you go.
And Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Yeah, we came up with this all on our own.
All right, let's move into the 10-cent origin.
Which is the first part of the podcast where we tell you all of the basic constructs, creators, and fun facts in case you ever go to a dope Justice League themed cocktail party and someone asks you what's up with all those crazy kids in costumes.
Now, the Justice League, of course, is published by DC Comics. Their first appearance was in The Brave and the Bold, number 28, in March of 1960, because they are a Silver Age creation.
Ooh, look at that.
They were created by Gardner Fox, and their bases have been, or some of them have been, the Hall, the Watchtower, the Refuge, the JLI Embassies, the Detroit Bunker, the JLI Satellite, and the Secret Sanctuary. Now, there have been too many numerous members to mention them all. But basically, if you're in the DCU, you've probably been in some version of the Justice League.
Yeah, that's probably really true.
So if you like a DC character, there's probably some iteration of the Justice League that they were in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we get into the meet cute, we just want to say that support for today's geek history lesson comes from Lisa. Now, if you don't know who Lisa is actually an innovative direct-to-consumer online mattress brand that is also socially conscious. They make American-made mattresses that ship directly to your box and a door, and they're available online or at the Lisa Dream Gallery in Soho, New York City, and Virginia Beach. Now, I gotta say, Lisa has become one of my favorite sponsors of Geek History Lesson.
Oh, do tell.
Because they sent me a mattress.
Well, that's pretty great.
And no lie, I've been sleeping on this mattress for a couple days now before the recording of this. And it's seriously, I'm not lying, this is the best mattress I've ever slept on. Ooh. Now, I used to work in a furniture store, Ashley. I don't know if you know that.
I know that.
And I, in the store, I had to try different mattresses out. I had to sell them to people, like pillow tops and stuff like that. I actually think the Lisa mattress is more comfortable than any mattress I ever sold.
Ooh, throw down with that furniture store Jason used to work at.
Now, here's the other crazy thing about it. They're not listening to this. Not only does Lisa make a great mattress, but they're also a really good company. Listen to this.
Okay.
Lisa actually donates one mattress to a shelter for every 10 that they sell through their 110 program. So they've actually donated over 22,000 mattresses.
That's amazing.
That's astounding.
Awesome.
That's a great company. I love companies that do that. Now, these mattresses are available in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Germany.
Ooh.
So if you want a Lisa mattress for yourself, or you want to check out some of their future products like the Lisa pillow, the blanket foundation, and frame, you want to go to Lisa. Now, Lisa is spelled Leesa.
Good to know.
.com. So go to lisa.com/geekhistory. You'll get free shipping, and because you go to the little promo code, you're going to get $100 off a Lisa mattress.
Holy smokes, Batman.
Now, you get to try that mattress in your home for 100 nights risk-free, but I'm really going to doubt you're going to want to return it because if we did recommended mattresses on this podcast, this would be the number one.
Nice.
So go to lisa.com/geekhistory. Remember that Lisa is Leesa, and you're going to want to start sleeping on a mattress of great geek comfort. And thanks to Lisa for sponsoring the show.
Yes, thank you. All
right, now let's move into the meet cute.
Which is a term that we stole from romantic comedy writing where we tell you where we first meeted the characters and how cute it was.
Now, Ashley, where did you first meet the Justice League?
Tough question, and we've had a couple of these in the past.
Your answer cannot be Batman the Animated Series.
I do feel like they have... screw you. I do feel like they've permeated pop... Like, I knew what the Justice League was before I ever saw them or read them, or I at least knew the name.
Sure.
I'm not sure if I didn't think that Spider-Man was on the Justice League to begin with.
Oh, you thought some Avengers were in there?
I probably did.
Okay.
Look, when I was 5, I didn't know what company loyalty was.
Yeah. None of us do.
No, but a big part, obviously, of my introduction to them, as we traditionally think of them, is the Justice League cartoon and Justice League Unlimited, which I always want to call Justice League United, that subsequently followed. And I think for most people who came up in the 80s and 90s, that was...
Did you watch it live, basically?
I did, yeah.
Oh, great.
That was
so
a
good.
quintessential. Yeah, man, that, Superman, Batman, and the Zeta Project. Shout out to anyone who remembers that show.
I remember Zeta, the spinoff of Batman Beyond.
It was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so most of my early education came from that, and then
We gotta do a Batman Beyond episode sometime. Oh man.
Great. You can teach
I think we
that.
I think we could get Will Friedle on the episode.
I think we could too.
The voice of Terry McGinnis. Anyways, let's stop going to. We talk about now being a golden age. Like I remember when the Justice League cartoon came on, and
that felt like the golden age.
Oh, it did, because you were like, I can't believe there's a Justice League cartoon,
and everyone's in it.
Yep.
Like everyone,
Yeah.
and they're amazing. Like that was the first time I ever knew who Martian Manhunter was,
and the toys were great too.
He's awesome. Yeah, and I have a lot of the toys now because I didn't have them as a child.
I always think about, because that series was so great and they basically made everybody. I always think about going back and maybe trying to collect all of them.
Man, that'd be so great. You spend so much money.
You'd spend so much money. Yeah,
a couple of them would be really expensive. But yeah, most of my introduction was from that cartoon.
Great.
So how about you? Where did you first meet the Justice League? You can't say Wizard magazine.
I can't. Although Wizard did help me love the Justice League quite a bit and learn a lot more about them.
Nice.
My easy answer for this is the death of Superman. Now, if you've heard me talk about the death of Superman many times, I bought it because I saw it on news. The news were like, Superman's gonna die, and so I bought it and stuff like that. I didn't realize at the time that there was such a thing as a shared universe. So this team, and the Justice League at that time was Booster Gold, Guy Gardner. It was Guy Gardner with a yellow ring.
Oh yeah.
Maxima, Bloodwind, Blue Beetle, Ice, and I think Fire was on it as well, and then one of the Rocket Reds. And I was like, who is this team? And the reason why I found out who this team was is because one of the issues of Justice League of America crosses over into the death of Superman.
Sure.
Because Dan Jurgens, I believe, was working on it at the same time. And that was the first time where, I mean, not the greatest Justice League to be introduced to, but that was the first time where I was like, oh, who is this team? And why isn't Superman on this team? I was always bothered when Superman and Batman were on the team. I was like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a very little kid attitude.
And then, of course, later on, I began to love the Justice League, or should I say the JLA, as I love to call them.
Yeah.
When Grant Morrison and Howard Porter, the amazing Howard Porter, kicked off their run. And I remember seeing it being talked about in Wizard Magazine. And Ashley,
yes,
that was the very first comic book that I subscribed to.
Oh,
so I
that's so cute.
I cut out the little mail-in form.
Yeah,
because I think at the time
you desecrated a publication.
I did, and I gave my check, and I want to say at the time it was like $12.95 for 12 issues or something like that. So ridiculous.
Truly a golden age.
Yeah, truly a golden age. And I sent it in, and I started getting Justice League issues in the mail. And my first one actually was, there's a storyline, we'll talk about it probably in part 2.
Yeah.
Where Connor Hawke joins the Justice League, and he's like going around the Watchtower, and he has his like dad's boxing glove arrow and stuff like that.
I'm imagining little kid Jason trying to convince your mom to write a check for that, because you can never pay for those things with cash.
No. I think I gave her the money, and then she wrote it.
Yeah. But it's very precious in my brain.
When I grew up, I didn't have a comic book shop, so that was the only way I could get it. I had to subscribe to it.
Yeah.
And so that was it. That's where I truly loved the JLA.
Aww.
So little known fact. I don't think 85 episodes, excuse me. And this is it. This is the first comic book I ever subscribed to, or pulled, as you want to say.
Yeah. That's what the new kids on the block say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't we roll right into the History 101, which is the main meat of the lesson, where Professor Jason is going to scrape the surface, throwing down on the Justice League history.
Oh, totally. Now, just to let you know, first off, this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode, because the Justice League history, it was a hard place to decide where the end of part 1 should be. Also, I'm going to synopsize a lot of stuff, because there are hundreds and hundreds, almost 1,000 issues of Justice League easily, just in their different titles. So I'm not talking about all of them. Some of the Justice League titles are going to get short shifted, just because in the overall picture, I didn't think they were that important to know. So if any of these points interest you, we will have recommended reading in part 2, not in part 1. If any of these titles interest you, I suggest you highly you Google them, go check them out. But there's not enough time.
Yeah.
So, first off, let's talk about a little bit of a publication history. Now,
yes, let's.
The debut of Barry Allen as the Flash in 1956, of course, kickstarted a new generation of costume mystery men, right? Julie Schwartz, the editor at DC at the time, decided that this generation of heroes needed their own team. And to that end, he brought together Gardner Fox and Mike Sekowsky. The two of them created the Justice League, even though Gardner Fox is given more of the ownership of the idea. They got their debut in a tryout title called The Brave and the Bold.
Hey, look at that.
Now, Schwartz was influenced by the popularity of the Major League Baseball's National League and the American League and decided to change the name of the team from the Justice Society to the Justice League.
And fun fact, we do have a Justice Society episode.
We do, and I believe we mentioned that in that episode as well. Now, at that point, there had not been a team book at DC in over 9 years.
Wow. And in publication history, that's forever.
That's forever. Now, as we enter the fictional comic book history, DC's history, as we know, is plagued with retcons and changes to its origin and crises. So buckle in, my friends. Okay.
I'm so ready.
The Justice League are hit with this just as much. All right. Now, when we first meet the team in Brave and the Bold, number 28, it's already formed. And the members are Wonder Woman, Green Lantern Hal Jordan, of course, Barry Allen Flash, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter, with Superman and Batman sort of being like reserve members. In their secret cavern called the Secret Sanctuary, actually was the name given to a large cave that they had deep in a mountain base in Happy Harbor, Rhode Island.
Happy Harbor.
Now, Aquaman tells the team that there are these Starfish Warriors out there. This is in the first issue. And so they all split up, and they all actually encounter these giant starfish in various different places. Now, Flash actually gets some help defeating his defeating his starfish from a DC character named Lucas Snapper Carr. Ashley, who is Lucas Snapper Carr?
Snapper Carr is a very famous Superman family character.
He's more a Justice League family character, actually.
Oh, I was thinking it was a Superman
This is his
character.
first appearance.
Well, he also shows up on Supergirl.
Yeah. He's basically... I would say he's the sidekick to the Justice League.
Yeah, he kind of acts as their oracle for a while.
Yeah. Now, eventually, Snapper convinces them to dump a bunch of lime on all the starfish because that's what oystermen do, and because Snapper earlier in the issue was actually protected by Starro from some lime that he'd actually dumped on his lawn, and it works on the space alien. It's the 60s, folks, and I guess they dumped lime on their lawn.
That's horrible. Yep. Don't do that.
Yeah, but that's how they defeat Starro, the giant starfish alien.
Oh, yeah.
Now, later, following this adventure, Snapper is made an honorary member of the team, and he would actually go on to accompany them on many adventures and make inventions in their secret sanctuary and all this stuff like that.
Cool.
But the story of how the League actually got together was told in Justice League number 9, 2 years later.
Why not?
So in this origin, this is the official origin of the Justice League, Earth was infiltrated by the Appalachians. They were competing alien warriors who were sent to see who could conquer Earth first to determine who will become the new ruler of their home planet. Now, the aliens' attacks drew the attentions of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter. Then this event created the Justice League. While the superheroes individually defeated most of the invaders, the heroes fell prey to a single competitor's attack, and only the last one, of course, only by working together were they able to defeat that alien. Now, for many years, the heroes heralded this adventure as the event that prompted them to become the Justice League. Now, you might also be asking yourself, in universe, where does the Justice League name come from?
Jason, in universe, where does the Justice League name come from?
Well, in that story, Ashley, that I was just talking about, Batman says, and I quote, "We ought to form a club or society." And Flash responds with, "A league against evil, our purpose to uphold justice against whatever dangers threatens it." That's my Barry Allen and my Bruce Wayne.
Great.
You're welcome.
I love your Bruce Wayne. I do want to jump in really quick and say that
Sure.
This is a very classic super team origin for the time. If you ever read the original Teen Titans from the 60s, they form in the same way.
Did they fight aliens as well?
They did, and they all sort of just showed up and then randomly decided to be a team and randomly stood around talking about what the name was going to be.
We also have a Geek History lesson on the Teen Titans.
Yeah,
Go look
you can
at
listen to that.
Go Google it.
And also the trend of let's start in media res and then like 2 years later tell the origin is a very DC Silver Age smooth.
Very Silver Age.
Yeah.
Now, it was later retconned in the 1970s that the Justice League actually had a different first meetup.
But Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're already at a first retcon.
Like a decade later.
Yeah. The first unofficial gathering of the group that would form the JLA happens when the White Martians attempt to invade Earth. Now, Ashley, who are the White Martians?
The White Martians are like the evil Martians of Mars, and the good Martians are the Green Martians.
Basically. Now, this prompted then fledgling hero Flash into bringing together Martian Manhunter, Superman, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman,
F yeah, Robin,
the Challengers of the Unknown, the Blackhawk Squadron, Plastic Man, Congo Bill, he's a giant gorilla, Rex the Wonder Dog, and Vigilante. Now, really quick, Ashley, do you know who the Challengers of the Unknown are?
Not really.
They're sort of DC's Fantastic Four group.
Great.
And the Blackhawk Squadron are a bunch of pilots that fight superhero things. Now, this collection of heroes actually stopped the Martian invasion, and while the group did not officially form at the time, it was later realized when the case was reviewed years later by Green Arrow that all the founding members, including Hal Jordan, who at the time of the White Martian adventure had not become Green Lantern. He was there as a fighter pilot.
Sure.
They were actually all present.
Oh, well.
So Green Arrow was actually, guys, this is actually secretly our origin. Our origin. Yeah.
That's nice, I guess.
So the Justice League became a team, and they had more and more adventures. And in their early adventures, the Justice League would battle Zotar, the weapons master, Professor Ivo and his creation, the Amazo.
Hey, we know him.
And Despero. Now, when the group was enslaved by Kanjar Ro, who is an evil alien from outer space, they would later be rescued by Adam Strange, who would become a regular ally of the group. Now, Adam Strange, actually, if you don't know who he is, he's a mere human archaeologist who one day, while in a dig in South America, he was transported to the planet of Ran via the Zeta Beam, and there he got a cool costume, a jetpack, and a ray gun.
There you go.
Now, the group would next invite, Ashley, who? Who do you think was the first DC hero that was granted membership in the Justice League outside of the Big Seven?
I want to say it's one of the Hawks.
Okay.
But I bet it's someone dumber than that, so I'm going to say Blue Beetle.
Incorrect. Blue Beetle does not join the Justice League for quite a long time. Green Arrow.
Oh, he wasn't.
He was not a member of the Big Seven at this point. I remember that story I told you about was a retcon story.
Yeah,
Green Arrow is the first member that's invited to the Justice League.
I like that.
Yep.
I think that's cool.
It'll also become even cooler and when we get a later retcon down the road.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
The Green Arrow's introduction in the group would actually be rocky at first because he prevents various League members from capturing Captain Cold and various other villains. But this, however, was in order to prevent the group from being killed by Dr. Destiny, who was posing as Green Lantern, who Oliver had figured out wasn't the real Green Lantern. So his first adventure is all him like, Green Lantern's a fool. And they're like, shut up, new guy.
And he's like, look, he's my buddy. I know.
Yeah. Now, while battling the Lord of Time, the Justice League would then be summoned by the Timeless Ones to prevent Felix Faust from collecting the Red Jar of Kaloths and other various objects that you can't pronounce. The League would succeed. However, the three demons that he was trying to be released would be freed 100 years in the future. Resuming their battle against the Lords of Time would end in a victory. However, the Justice League would then get trapped in the year 2062 and be forced to fight the demons. The League would then defeat the demons by switching their appearances to kind of trick the demons because they can't figure it out when superheroes change their capes.
Cool.
Now, again, as I said, just another reminder, I'm going to be blazing through a lot of Silver Age and Bronze Age storylines because a lot of them are very repeatable.
A lot of them are very silly, too, like the one we just heard about.
Yep. Now, Amos Fortune, now calling himself Mr. Memory, would hire Hector Hammond, Pied Piper, Sea Thief, Angleman, Dr. Davis, and the Joker against the League. And in doing so, they would attempt to manipulate the Atom in their plot. However, the Justice League would defeat them and then invite the Atom, Ray Palmer, to join their group as the second hero to join the Justice League.
Hey, that's neat.
With the Atom on their team, they would then prevent the merging of Earth with a parallel universe. They would battle the Tornado Tyrant, and they would save the micro world of Stars from their former guardians. They would also foil Dr. Destiny's plot to exile the Justice League from Earth and destroy the gigantic robot, Spaceman X.
Wow.
Yep. But a more important adventure would happen soon.
Okay.
The Justice League would soon learn the existence of Earth 2, a parallel world where had its own team of heroes, the Justice Society of America. And when both Earth 1 and Earth 2 are menaced by the crime champions, who are criminals from both dimensions, the two teams would work together to defeat the crime champions and save both their universes. Now, this encounter would become the first of many team-ups between the two groups. Also, later on, the Justice League would be forced to picket the United Nations when a ban on using their superpowers is motioned. The League finds out, however, that this was actually due to a master plan that was organized by the Headmaster Mind and his henchmen, the Matter Master and the Tomato Man and the Top. The JLA crushes their plot and ends the ban on the use of their superpowers.
Oh, so this is like a Civil War before Civil War was the thing.
The Justice League would have yet another reality-spanning adventure when they are soon attacked by the Crime Syndicate of America.
Hey!
Which are evil versions of themselves hailing from Earth 3. Now, the League manages to best them in combat by learning of a single word that can shunt them back to their home dimension. However, seeking a more neutral battleground, the Crime Syndicate travels to Earth 2, where they subdue the Justice Society of America by taking them to Earth 3. Now, the League would later rescue their Earth 2 counterparts, and they would also beat the crap up of the Crime Syndicate. Yep.
Well, that's one way to get it done for sure.
The League would also get into their possession a tape recorded by Superman's father, Jor-El, that outlines worlds that he would consider sending his son before finally choosing Earth. Now, during the same period, the League would be turned to criminal intentions by an alien known as Antithesis, and their activities as evil people led to their young sidekicks to form the Teen Titans to battle their mentors in order to free them from alien control.
Hey, there you go.
Yep, see, one of the many alien adventures with the Teen Titans.
I knew we were going to get Teen Titans mention.
The Justice League would next go on to recruit Hawkman into their ranks.
Oh, I was so not close at all with that guess.
And in his first case with the team, they would battle against Joe Perry, who would use an alien panda-computer to create Super Duper, a composite based upon Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Hawkman, and Green Lantern.
I thought you were going to say like Super Duper Robots or something, but that was just the character's name.
No, DC Silver Age loves composite things.
Yes, yes, they really do.
But after they defeat Super Duper, the League next takes time out for some romance.
Wait, what?
Romance. Ooh. Justice League romance.
Tell me more.
We're going to go to Atlantis, and we're going to witness the marriage of Aquaman and his Aqua baby Mera.
His Aqua baby.
So Aquaman and Mera got married.
Ah, that's sweet.
Now, I want to do a fun sidebar here, Ashley.
Okay.
Do you like Arthur and Mera married or single? And do you like Mera at all?
I do like Mera, but I feel like maybe I'm more in like with the idea of Mera than in much of her execution.
Sure.
I think she's quite good in the Bombshell series, where she is completely divorced of her association with Aquaman.
Great design in that series.
She's one of the best designs. I would say that I like her and Arthur not married better.
Really?
Yeah.
You like Aquaman as the cat or fishing around the sea?
I mostly like Mera wild and free.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't really matter to me what Aquaman's up to.
Yeah. He could be dead in a cave for all I care.
Well, I mean, is it blonde Aquaman or is it Jason Momoa Aquaman? My feelings diverge.
I mean, sure. As long as he has a beard and long hair and a harpoon hand, I don't care.
There you go. Do you think that they should be? I also like Aquaman and Wonder Woman together. So.
I don't. I don't think Wonder Woman should be with any of the Justice Leaguers at all.
She should be with a nice girl?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you like Arthur and Mera together? I derailed you. I'm sorry.
I prefer Arthur single. Mm-hmm. I really do. But because every story of Arthur always makes him king. Yeah. And if he's going to be king, then I think he should be married. It's a weird thing.
So that he's not the only person. He's got someone to bounce his kingly ideas off of.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, so going back to the Justice League would soon end world chaos caused by the Andrew Helm out-of-controlled Corti consciousness machine.
Great.
They would clash with the villain The Key, and Professor Ivo would build the device to steal the JLA's powers. However, a side effect would actually endow the Flash and his comrades' powers as well, and he would defeat Ivo. Now, while battling the unimaginable, the League would attempt to recruit Metamorpho into the group.
I love Metamorpho.
But to the League's surprise, Metamorpho would become the first member to refuse membership.
What?
But he actually would take reserve status with the group.
Mm-hmm. And there are quite a few characters that do that over time.
Exactly. Superman and Batman being a couple of them.
Yeah.
Now, the group and the Justice Society of America of Earth 2 are next targeted by T.O. Mara, who builds the Red Tornado to murder members of the JSA. Now, Ashley, who is the Red Tornado?
The Red Tornado is an android who is theoretically able to find a way to diffuse any power that he comes across, any superpower that he comes across. He's a really important figure when you get much later on down the line into things like Young Justice.
Well, he's more like his powers are spinning. I don't know if it's neutralizing powers.
But because he's supposed to be, right, like super strong stuff like that.
I just more tornado powers.
Yeah.
So this plot was ultimately thwarted by the combined efforts of the surviving members of the Justice League and the Justice Society, and they would defeat T.O. Morrow and stuff like that. And then Red Tornado would go on to become a future member of the Justice League.
Yes.
Now, the League next thwart an invasion of America by Generalissimo Demigog. Fun, interesting name, huh?
Get it?
And they would battle the amoebic creatures Never Was and return them to prehistory. But the League would suffer a loss when Wonder Woman would leave the team following the loss of her Amazonian powers.
No, Diana.
Now, this is the period in the 70s where Wonder Woman became a spy.
She had a dope white outfit.
And she had a really sweet costume and stuff like that. So this is what is reflecting that. Green Arrow would also be affected because he would be framed for murder by Headmaster Mind and the Tattooed Man. However, the League would later learn of this frame job and clear Green Arrow's name, but it still caused problems.
Aw.
Now, Aquarius, a sentient star from Earth 2, would attempt to get revenge on his masters by destroying the multiverse by using Starman's gravity rod.
Yeah.
What is the gravity rod?
Why not? The gravity rod is what the original Starman and then the second Starman and then Stargirl use. It's basically a staff that has a piece of something I can't remember in it that allows it to basically reverse gravity and fly around.
Now, this would lead to yet another team up between the Justice League of America and the Justice Society of America. And during this encounter, the Superman of Earth 1, the Golden Age Superman, would meet his Earth 2 counterpart for the very first time. Now, although the two teams managed to destroy Aquarius, it is at the cost of Black Canary's husband, Larry Lance. And in the climax of the battle, Black Canary would decide to return with the Justice League back to Earth 1. However, unknown to everyone at the time,
What?
the Black Canary that accompanied them back to Earth 1 was not Dinah Drake Lance, but her daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance.
What?
Who was temporarily given her mother's memories and endowed with powers that would manifest shortly after she arrived on Earth 1. Her involvement with the Justice League would lead to a romance between her and Green Arrow, and the Arrow would change his appearance and become more of a social activist, pressuring the group to combat social ills instead of fighting supervillains. Now, this was just an explanation to explain why we had a Black Canary on both teams.
Yes, and why they have the same names.
Yep.
Now,
very soon, the team expanded to include Elongated Man Ralph Dibny,
Hey.
Zatanna,
Hey.
Firestorm, and finally Hawkgirl. And soon after that, they would leave Happy Harbor because Snapper Carr was tricked and betraying the secret location of the cave headquarters to the Joker, which resulted in him resigning from the team in shame.
You should be ashamed.
Yep. So the Justice League then moved to a satellite, and the team built a geosynchronous space station that was 22,000 miles above the equator. And through this period, the membership was limited to initially 7 members, which included Green Arrow, the Atom, Black Canary, Phantom Stranger, Elongated Man, Hawkman, and Red Tornado. And this satellite would actually be the Justice League's home for the next several years. Now, this is not the Watchtower, that comes later.
Yeah.
Members were able to teleport to and from the satellite using teleportation centers located across the planet, and League members for the very first time took turns on watch duty, monitoring Earth from the satellite and dispatching League members as needed. Now, this is known as the satellite era of the League. Or the
I can't imagine why.
Or the Satellite League. Yeah. Now, their old place in Happy Harbor went on to become the headquarters for the Doom Patrol and Young Justice.
Yay!
This is also the period of time when the shocking Sue Dibny event that we mentioned in the Ralph Dibny Elongated Man episode. This is about the time period where it takes place.
Yeah.
Where Dr. Light becomes really terrible.
Yep.
It is also during this period where the first unofficial Justice League and Avengers crossover happens. Bet you didn't know about that.
Jason, how could this possibly happen?
Well, Ashley,
these companies don't get along. What is this madness?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story. We're going to come out of the fictional character history for a bit. In the fall of 1972, Len Wein and writers Jerry Conway and Steve Englehart created a metafictional unofficial crossover spanning titles from both Marvel and DC. Each comic featured Englehart, Conway, and Wein, as well as Wein's first wife, Glynis, interacting with Marvel and DC characters at the Rutland Halloween Parade in Rutland, Vermont. This began in Amazing Adventures number 16. The story then continued in Justice League of America 103 and then concluded in Thor 207. Now, Englehart later said in an interview, "It certainly seemed like a radical concept, and we knew that we had to be subtle. And each story...
subtle.
Yeah, each story had to stand on its own. But we really worked it out, and it's really worthwhile to read those stories back to back to back. It didn't matter to any of us that one was at DC and two was Marvel. We were just thinking about being creative and thinking about a way of these characters can interact." Now, have you ever heard of this storyline? I've heard about it a couple of times.
I have heard about it a couple times, and I have read 2 of them.
Can you describe, like, what is some of the... It's the idea that all of these characters are at the same parade at the same time?
Yeah, but it's sort of set on, like, our real world Earth. And, yeah, basically, the adventures span... they're really lame.
Yeah.
And they span out of what happens at a local parade. What's really cool about them is that it is the first crossover, official or unofficial, it doesn't matter. They did it. The editors let them do it, and it got through. And all of those issues are they're all digital.
Oh, cool.
So they're really easy to find. I really think that Marvel and DC should just like agree to print a collection of them. Because
they should. They never will.
Even though they're not subtle, certainly by modern standards, they're not a particularly good story. People would buy it.
Yeah.
People would buy just to have it.
It's a fun little piece of comic book history, I think.
And it's also, what I think is maybe more fun than the fact that it was the first crossover between the companies is how these comic book writers and artists presented themselves fictionally, I think is really interesting, personally.
Yes, and especially the late, great Len Wein, who recently passed.
Yes. Go read it just for him.
All right, so now back to the Justice League. Now, the Justice League then offered membership to the Phantom Stranger, and he sort of joined, but not as a full member.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wonder Woman finally rejoined the team following a 2-year story arc, largely written by Martin Pasco, the great Martin Pasco. And to prove her worthiness to rejoin the JLA, Wonder Woman voluntarily underwent the 12 trials that are very similar to the labors of Hercules, each one which was monitored in secret by a member of the JLA. After the conclusion of this storyline in Wonder Woman number 222, the character's return to the Justice League occurred in a 2-part storyline beginning in Justice League of America 128.
Wow.
Although this is the part where the team is going to start splitting up. Flash experienced a personal tragedy in his life, while the big 3 of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were committed to their own caseloads. The satellite was eventually destroyed by the Green Martians, and Aquaman decided the destruction of the satellite was a way to disband the Justice League of America and start over. Now, the satellite actually sort of stayed around until Crisis on Infinite Earths, when it was destroyed by a self-detonating red tornado that had been sabotaged and tampered with by the Anti-Monitor, and it was actually never rebuilt. Now, but this leads us to everyone's favorite Justice League, the Justice League Detroit.
Yeah. Speaking of Aquaman.
We're going to step out a little bit. We're going to talk about publication history here.
Okay.
Now, seeking to capitalize on the popularity of their other team books, which focused on heroes in their late teens and early 20s, Jerry Conway and artist Chuck Padden revamped the Justice League series. Most of the original heroes failed to help fend off an invasion of Martians. Aquaman dissolves the League, as I said, and he rewrites his charter to allow only heroes will devote their full time to the roster. The new team initially consists of Aquaman, Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, Elongated Man, Vixen, and a brand new trio of heroes known as Gypsy, Steel, and Waid.
Hey, we know who those characters are.
Now, all 3 of these characters are on the CW DC TV shows. Aquaman actually leaves the team after a year due to marital problems with Mera, and his role was assumed by Martian Manhunter assumed his role as leader.
Yeah.
This team was not popular. Now, the final storyline for the original Justice League of America series, which ended in issue 261, was written by J.M. DeMatteis. And it concludes with the murders of Steel and Vibe at the hands of robots created by longtime League nemesis Professor Ivo.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. And Vixen, Gypsy, and Elongated Man resign.
Great.
And the team is disbanded.
Okay.
And then Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, Ashley. And what is Crisis on Infinite Earths?
DC had too many universes, and they said, we don't want this many universes. So the Anti-Monitor ate them and pooped out one continuity.
Yes. Now, the Justice League of America title actually continued past Crisis.
What?
It did. So the reboot of the Justice League sort of happens after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, here's a weird thing that we talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths a lot on this podcast.
Yes.
The one thing that most people don't realize about Crisis on Infinite Earths is it's not like the New 52 where all the titles stopped. It wasn't like Rebirth where all the titles stopped. There was a slow roll. So some titles went past Crisis on Infinite Earths and then were rebooted. Some titles launched brand new.
Yeah, well, this was the first.
It was slow going.
This was the first major, like, line-wide retcon.
Yep.
It was the first Crisis. We didn't know to rip the Band-Aid off quick.
That's right. Now, after Crisis, we got a new title simply called Justice League. However, at the time, most of the Justice League characters were unavailable. Superman was limited to only be used in John Byrne's Man of Steel reboot miniseries.
Oh, wow.
George Perez was relaunching Wonder Woman from scratch.
Yes, he was.
And Mike Barron was launching the Wally West version of The Flash.
Best version.
As a result, the Justice League could only have these members, and here are the members.
Okay.
Batman. Denny O'Neil, who was the Batman editor at the time, taking pity on the new creative team, actually allowed Batman to be used in the series. Black Canary. Dinah Lance was written as a strong feminist and often consisted with clash with the misogynistic Guy Gardner. Blue Beetle, who was a recent acquisition from Charlton Comics. Captain Marvel. Dr. Fate. Which actually was, this included with, coincided with the miniseries, the Dr. Fate miniseries. The Dr. Light that first appeared in Crisis on Infinite Earths, this was Kimoyo Hoshi. Guy Gardner, who actually suggested, this character was given to him over Hal Jordan because the Green Lantern office didn't want to give Hal Jordan. Martian Manhunter was the only connection to the previous Justice Leagues. And this is the series where he develops his love for Oreos. And this is where Mr. Miracle and his wife, Barda, joined the Justice League.
Yes! I want to say really quick that I love this. This is a really important rebirth for the Black Canary character as well. And the reason I think she becomes such a, quote, feminist character is because she is taking up the role of Wonder Woman, even though Barda is objectively stronger.
Now, with issue 7, this series was renamed Justice League International, and that's how most comic fans remember it. Now, you talked about it a little bit, Ashley. Do you like the Justice League International period? What are your thoughts about this period?
I love this team. This was one of the first Justice League runs I ever read that wasn't like I read Kingdom Come really early and stuff like that. But that's kind of a one-shot, one and done storyline.
It's not technically a Justice League story, but sure, I'll get it to you.
No, but I don't know how else you would classify it.
Agreed.
So we call it a Justice League story. What I like about the JLI is I feel like it's the perfect transition point between the Bronze Age and modern comic storytelling. The art is very forward. To this day, it feels very modern. It's gorgeous. The action sequences and the pacing feel very modern, very contemporary, but there's room for levity and there's room for silliness here that wouldn't fit with a lot of other stories that were coming out at this time, because we're starting to roll into the beginning of like where comics can be serious business. And I think that the JLI straddles them both. And I do think that the JLI, probably because of these mandates where they couldn't have Superman and Wonder Woman, they embrace some of what people like to call like B and C list characters, and they show you what's wonderful about these characters. And I think that's tremendously important. And I think that's a baton that the DC TV shows have picked up and really ran with that I admire.
And they actually just released a giant omnibus of the Justice League International. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they did.
All right. Now, very early on in this Justice League's adventures, they fight the Champions of Angor, alien superheroes that are intent on destroying all of Earth's nuclear weapons. Now,
that's a great goal.
Now, Bialy's director, Rumen Harajavata, takes advantage of the Champions to eliminate his rivals. And in Russia, the League fights the Rocket Red Brigade until Gorbachev, a real person, allows them to help. Eventually, millionaire entrepreneur Maxwell Lord takes an interest in the team, breaching their security and suggesting Booster Gold as a new member. Now, Booster Gold proves himself in combat against the Royal Flush Gang, and Lord declares himself the Justice League International's press liaison. Now, fun fact, Booster Gold had only been introduced previously to this in his own series by Dan Jurgens, because he's created by Dan Jurgens. Booster is not the goofy nincompoop in the Dan Jurgens series that he is in Justice League International. Justice League International is what makes him the star nincompoop guy.
Him and Blue Beetle become the bwahaha.
And in one of the greatest comic moments ever, Guy Gardner challenges Batman to a fight over leadership, and Batman knocks him out in one punch.
And everybody cheers.
Yep. After waking up from Batman's punch, Guy is shown to have a mild split personality disorder induced by the head trauma, and he switches back and forth between his normal aggressive self and a much kinder, sweeter, gentler persona because of the blow to the skull.
He needs to be hit upside the head a little more then.
Yep. Earth is then attacked by a mysterious satellite, and the League travels into space. Miracle recognizes it as a modified New Genesis device and neutralizes it. They return home as heroes because of this. Maxwell Lord then introduces a proposal to get the United Nations to fund the team, and they are given sponsorship in exchange for government regulation. This plan allows them to act as an independent city-state with worldwide embassies across the world. Captain Atom and Rocket Red No. 7 are added to the team by the United States and Russia, respectively. Captain Marvel and Dr. Fate quit the team for personal reasons. Batman steps down as leader, appointing Martian Manhunter to replace him, and this is where they are reintroduced to the world at a press conference as the Justice League International, and the Justice League gets embassies in Moscow, New York City, and Paris.
Awesome.
Rocket Red No. 4 replaces his predecessor eventually, and the League battles the Construct when it takes over Maxwell Lord's building. They are then confronted by its master, Metron, who detects an unusual sentience in the machine and is revealed that Max Lord has been controlled by an evil computer which caused him to manipulate the League's creation. Now, he breaks free and he destroys it, having learned to actually sincerely care about the team. And Martian Manhunter finally begins to trust Max and gives him a Justice League signal device. Now, Ashley, Maxwell Lord, he's a swarmy businessman guy. And in more recent years, he has been turned into a villain. What are your thoughts on Maxwell Lord? Do you like him as a good guy? Or do you like him as a bad guy?
I hate Maxwell Lord.
If he's a villain, you're supposed to hate him.
Right. So, I mean, I guess they're doing their job. I only, my earliest encounters with Maxwell Lord were as a villain.
Okay.
So that's how I think of him. I think he works better there. I think the idea of the snapper car type sidekick is antiquated. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think it works for a modern story.
Well, that wasn't quite Maxwell's role, though.
No, but to me, you could look at him as he fills that same niche. Sure. Like, he handles their civilian business and stuff like that. And look, it's Alfred or bust for me on that front. So Maxwell Lord is no Alfred.
No one is Alfred.
I just don't. I don't care for him in any. If he went away as a character, I'd be fine with that. You know?
All right, cool. All right, back to the Justice League International. Magna Khan decides to sell Mr. Miracle to Apocalypse, his home planet, and Martian Manhunter leads a rescue team with Big Barda. Khan puts a contract on them, and they fight the bounty hunter Lobo. Ashley, who's Lobo?
Your very favorite metal cosmic character.
The main man.
He's a cosmic bounty hunter.
He's white. He's got red eyes and a big old back. And he's got a chain with a sickle on the end of it.
And he looks like a backup member
and
of
he says,
Kiss.
"You better leave me alone, you bastitches." He says bastitch.
Oh, instead of...
This is my audition to voice Lobo. I'm the main man.
It's pretty good.
I don't know. I'd be going out for it. I make him Southern.
Yeah, I can tell that.
So they fight Lobo. Barda teleports Lobo back to the embassy, where he accidentally hits Gardner in the head and permanently reverts his personality.
God damn it.
Gardner fights Lobo until they're both subdued. Oberon, who is Mr. Miracle's assistant, decides to hold a membership drive after Black Canary quits. And Batman comes back to the League and helps recruit Hawkman and Hawkwoman. On Apocalypse, Magna Khan tries to sell Miracle to Granny Goodness and Vermin Wunderbar, and Barda teams up with the Argametto Resistance, and when they're attacked by parademons, she actually teleports the entire League to Apocalypse, and in the resulting battle, Darkseid intervenes, basically because he's like, hey, you're bothering me, and sends everybody home. He releases Mr. Miracle and Magna Carta, who then calls off Lobo.
Nice.
Then they finally all return to Earth, and the entire team is safe. I just wanted to bring that up because Mr. Miracle is being published by DC again, and anytime we can talk about the new gods, it's a good time.
They're awesome, and Barda, I think, is particularly awesome in this run as well.
Yep. Now, eventually, all of the Justice League International success led to many Justice League spinoffs. The titles included...
Oh my God, I'm so ready.
Oh, you get ready. Justice League of America came back. Justice League Europe. Justice League Justice League Task Force. Extreme Justice. And Justice League Quarterly. Now, Justice League Europe was later retitled to become the second volume of Justice League International. Now, eventually, Justice League International ended in a giant storyline called Breakdowns. Breakdowns was a 15-issue crossover between the Justice League of America and the Justice League Europe titles.
Wow.
Basically revising the whole organization. Now, this is what happens.
Okay.
Maxwell Lord is initially in a coma from a failed assassination attempt, and he is later possessed by a foe, the Dream Slayer of the Extremists. Following the end of the Breakdown saga, Maxwell Lord has no more mental powers because he has slight, persuasion power, sort of.
Yeah.
Because they're drained by the Dream Slayer. The Queen Bee, the ruler of the country Bialya, I don't know how to... That's a fake DC country that comes up several times. I've never had any idea how to say it.
Don't worry about it.
She is killed in a coup d'etat by Suman Harjavarte, the twin brother of the original dictator, Ruman. Despero awakes and escapes Magna Khan's starship to wreak havoc on New York City, seeking vengeance against the Justice League. And a force of the Justice League's best... and Lobo were unable to stop him. Ultimately, it was Kilowog who subdued Despero by transferring Elrond's consciousness into the cybernetic control collar that remained around Despero's neck, and for a long time, Elrond basically was Despero.
I know it's not what you're saying, but I'm just imagining that it's Elrond from Lord of the Rings. It's funnier to me that way.
While possessing Maxwell Lord's body, Dreamslayer, kidnaps and later murders Mitch Wacky on the island of Kui, where the... You'll know Kui.
No, I
it's
know.
where the Blue Beetle and Booster Gold previously attempted to open a resort called Club Justice League International.
Oh, I know.
Yep. Using Lord's persona, Dreamslayer lures a large portion of the Justice League to Kui, and takes mental control of them, making them the new extremists.
Yeah.
The Silver Sorceress, one of the former champions of Angor and the Justice League members, dies defeating the Dreamslayer, and her gravesite is on the island of Kui now.
Oh.
The UN, because of this event, withdraws its support from the Justice League, and it disbands, and the Martian Manhunter shockingly takes a leave of absence, although he later reemerges under the fake persona of Bloodwind. Shh, because that's a bigger reveal later down the road.
No, Sean, why?
So... let me give you a brief overview of how these different Justice League titles spun out of this and what they were.
Okay.
So there was the Justice League International, which became Justice League International became Justice League of America. Okay. Now, during the Justice League International title, there was a spinoff. So there was Justice League International and Justice League Europe.
Yes. Yeah.
But then eventually Justice League International became Justice League of America, which became a team basically made up of lesser-known characters such as Bloodwind, Maxima, Nuclon, Obsidian, so on and so on. Then there was Justice League Task Force, which was a team called to action by Hannibal Martin, a representative of the UN, and he asked that Martian Manhunter select a strike team of fellow Justice League members to lead them on a very special mission. And then there was Extreme Justice, which came out a couple years later, Basically, having conflicting opinions with current chairperson Wonder Woman, Captain Atom forms his own Justice League team with a group of heroes that want to be more proactive than their sister teams. And sometimes they invade countries.
Cool.
Now, Ashley, can you imagine having 5 Justice League titles? 5.
I mean, I can't imagine it. I don't like to imagine it because even you going through it, I was like, that's insane. And just from...
All in the early 90s.
Yeah, well, it's a very 90s. The whole thing is screams of the 1990s. But having worked very briefly in comics editorial, the idea of trying to keep that straight, let alone as a reader who doesn't know that maybe this is all supposed to converge later on, it seems like insanity.
It was insanity. In the summer of 1996, when sales were fading.
The mid-90s.
All Justice League monthly series were canceled.
What? No. Great lesson, Jason. I thought you did an awesome job.
Yep, and that's the end of the Justice League Geek History Lesson, ... Part 1, because that was spoiled in the beginning. And because those titles were eventually replaced by Grant Morrison's JLA.
So good.
Yes, it's amazing. And next episode, we're going to have a very special guest join us. Right now, you might be shouting, oh my God, is it Grant Morrison? It's not Grant Morrison, I'm sorry.
We're working on that.
But it's someone better. It is the JLA Year 1 and JLA writer Mark Waid.
What?
Will be joining us on the next Geek History Lesson. We're going to talk to him about his thoughts on the Justice League, and we're going to talk to him about what it's like to actually write the Justice League.
In a run that remains one of the greatest Justice League runs.
Oh, I will say this now, and I say this many times to him in the lesson as I kind of fanboy out. JLA Year 1 is my definitive origin for the Justice League.
I think it was the first Justice League book that you recommended to me as well.
It is a fantastic book. All right, so really quickly, recommended reading and all of the other stuff, TG Tweet will be happening in part 2 of the lesson. So that is it for part 1. Let's move on to the honor roll. Ashley, what is the Geek History Lesson honor roll?
The honor roll is, if you really like Geek History Lesson, you want to support it, you head on over to iTunes, you leave us a 5-star review, we read it on the air, and we shout you out, and you, among very few, get to be on the Mind University honor roll. Joining the honor roll this week is OJ Reyes, who said, whenever I want to catch up on my nerd culture, Geek History Lesson is so good. Fave goes to the Rip Hunter one. Oh, nice. Yeah. So, OJ Reyes, thank you for that 5-star review. Welcome to the Geek History Lesson honor roll. You deserve it. You can now use the teacher's lounge, but make sure that you mark the food you put in the refrigerator. It's all thrown out on Fridays. Yep. So, welcome. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Geek History Lesson on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. And Ashley, where can they go to suggest a lesson? Because I'm still blown away that nobody suggested Justice League. I'm so glad you leaned back for that. If you want to request lessons on things like Justice League International or Maxwell Lord, you can do that. We could do a Justice League International. There's enough there to do a full lesson. Absolutely there is. So go request your favorite Justice League team standalone episode at geekhistorylesson.com. Don't do Extreme Justice. I'm not reading that book. Facebook.com/geekhistorylesson or on Twitter at GHL Podcast. There's a ton of way to contact us in all those places. And believe me, we read them all. That's right. And don't forget to head over to patreon.com/Jawiin. That's Jawiin. It's the only thing that keeps Geek History Lesson absolutely free to you. And over there, you can listen to Geek History Lesson Extra episode where we pick our favorite Justice League stories. And that's exclusive for our Patrons who help keeping us bringing the show straight to you every single week. Patreon.com/Jawiin. You can find me on Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin. You can find Ashley on Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson, and you can find the podcast on Twitter at GHL Podcast. Just wanted to do it real slow like that. That was great. I loved it. All right, cool. That is it for Geek History Lesson. Thank you so much for listening. I am Jason Justice Inman. I am Ashley Victoria Robinson, and Professor Justice, will you please dismiss the class? Join us next time with a glass of milk and a bowl full of Chacos for more Martian Manhunter goodness.